We'll go ahead and get started. We might have a couple more trickle in on us while we're getting going, but I want to thank you all for coming out today. And I think I recognize a lot of you, but maybe not all of you, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Shad Baker. I'm the ag agent here in Letcher County. And we have had people ask about rhubarb off and on through the years, and we had never done a class on rhubarb. And so we didn't know what people would think of it, and we just kind of threw this out as a lark this spring. And this class is full, and we've got another one that's about 90% full. So apparently a lot of people want to learn how to grow rhubarb. So that's what we're going to talk about. Have any of y'all grown it before?
We have.
Okay. Have you had trouble growing it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about why that might be, and hopefully it helps you out. And y'all can ask questions anytime you want to. I don't mind being interrupted. And if you need to know where the restrooms are, they're right through that door. All right. So just a little background on rhubarb. A lot of times people think that it was from here, and it wasn't from here. It's kin to buckwheat, but I want you to notice where it's native to, Siberia. What do you know about Siberia? Other than that's where the Russians send their people they don't want to see anymore. It's cold, very cold. So this is a northern crop, and we live on the southern edge of where it can grow. And so I'm going to say this without getting political, because I don't want to trigger anybody. I'll tell you my own personal thoughts, and hopefully that's all right with everybody. I was not one of these people that was a believer in the global warming, all right? And I still don't know that I think if it's happening whether we're the ones causing it or not. I'm one of these people that's real slow to believe everything I hear. So, but whether you believe that or not, do y'all know Major Sparks? Or have you ever heard of Major Sparks? Major's been keeping weather for us in Letcher County, and Paul Morris, who had this job before me and did it for 26 years, and I finally beat him. I've been here longer than Paul. Paul got him a weather station, and he's kept the weather for the office since 1978. And so, you know, when I hear this stuff, I never know, is somebody doctoring that, or they messing with it, you know, whatever. And so I called Major, and I said, Major, I want you to do me a favor. And he said, sure. And I said, can you, he was handy with the computer, and I said, could you plot that on a graph to show me what has the average temperature in Letcher County done since 1978? And he said, I can do that. And he had it for me by the next week, and it has gone up, 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 and you can see it. Now, we were talking earlier, what happened in 1978? For those that were here, that was a brutal winter. So whether or not that's a false picture because you said it from the coldest, one of the coldest years we could have possibly had up till now, you know, I'm not going to argue with that. But I'll just say that UK's numbers that they keep are saying the same thing. It's getting warmer and warmer. And if we were already on the edge of where that thing would grow, as it gets warmer, it becomes trickier and trickier to grow it. So I was talking to Mr. Kraft here before we started. I bet every one of you's parents or grandparents grew this, and it looked like they didn't have any trouble growing it at all, right? So my papa grew it, and I never heard him talk about, oh, I got to be careful where I plant it. You know, he could plant it anywhere he wanted to, look like. They had it right out on the edge of their garden. And that's what everybody did. They had their regular garden, and then their perennial crops like their asparagus or something that would grow multiple years, they kept it over on the edge. And so that's where the rhubarb was. And anyway, it's become harder to grow it. So it's been used for a long time. There's not very many crops that we know of that they've been using for 5,000 years. I can tell you corn has not been used for 5,000 years. So it's been used by folks for longer than most crops. It's less widely grown in the U.S. now than in the past. And part of that has to do with the climate, and part of it's got to do with demographics. We had a bunch of people back in the day that came in here from Germany and Europe. And so they would have been more likely to grow this and eat this. Now we've got a lot of people that have come from South America and warmer climates, and this ain't something that they're used to eating. So the trend has been down generally, but there's started to be a resurgence. There's a lot of people that are wanting something different. And has everybody in here ever ate rhubarb? There's not a lot of things like rhubarb. I mean, it's unique, and so that's why people want to grow it. It first got brought in here in the 1700s, so when the country was first formed, they were growing rhubarb. And it's known for tart pies. And I saved this story when we were talking early because I didn't want you to have to hear it twice. But I've got some at the house. I tried to grow it in 4 different places in my yard, and it would grow for a year, and then it would die and not come back. And at the time, I didn't know why that was going on. And I thought, well, the pH ain't right, or, maybe it's too much clay. I was trying all these things. And I finally looked into what was causing it and decided that planting it on the north side of my house was the best thing to do because that would be the coolest place in my yard to grow it. And that worked. I planted it in compost against the north side of my house, and it has done great. So now I can run us out with rhubarb. Problem is, my wife hates it. And the reason why she hates it is because she only got sick with morning sickness when she had my daughter one time. And we'd been down to my mom's, and we grilled out, and for dessert she made a strawberry rhubarb cobbler. And it was delicious. She puked the whole way back to Letcher County. I mean, we were constantly pulling over. Sorry about that for the TV folks. But anyway, so I've got it, but that's all for my mom. When she comes in, she ends up with the rhubarb. Now, did y'all ever notice that when you buy it, they've trimmed the leaves off of it? That's not just for looks. There's oxalic acid in those leaves that will make you very sick. It's toxic. So there's a reason why. This is kind of like something else that we eat the leaves of, but not the stalks. What would that be? Yeah. So that's where the acid is accumulated on this, is in the leaves. All right. So if you aren't familiar with it, it grows kind of in a mound. It kind of grows up in the middle and falls over, and it keeps sending up new shoots, and as they get older they kind of fall to the side, but it's kind of a mounding growth habit, about 2 to 4 feet high. Mine's already up. Do y'all have any? I would have had more, and I'll talk about why that is when I get to the pest section, but it's come up twice now. Mine's come up twice. You'll see that it's got rhizomes. If you look in your little bag, I think that's where he put it at. Inside your little bag there, you've got a piece of a root of a rhubarb. And that is one of the rhizomes that came off of the crown. Do y'all know what I mean when I talk about the crown of it? If you've ever grown rhubarb, you've divided it probably, and it'll be a big thick crown in the middle with those rhizomes coming off of it. And so anyway, that's kind of how you get more. But it develops from those rhizomes, and it spreads slowly. It dies the first time it frosts, and that crown gets a little bigger each year. So it's kind of like bulbs. It can get root bound if you don't divide it. So you maintain the vigor on these things by dividing them ever so often, and usually it's about every 5 to 8 years you'll want to divide it and start you another plant. But it's a great thing to have because it doesn't require a lot of care. If you can get it growing and get it established, this isn't something you really have to do a lot to, except maybe keep it weeded. Weeds will come up in it if you're not, if it's getting a lot of sunlight or something, it can get weedy. I mulch mine, and so I don't have that problem. It's long-lived. There's not very many crops that'll live to be 10 to 15 years old that are herbaceous. Usually for it to last that long, you'd have to have a woody type plant. It likes a lot of organic material. So if you plant this just in the bare soil, it might grow and do fine, but it'll do a lot better if you plant it in composted manure. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, when you take that home and plant it, just stop in somewhere and get you a bag of composted manure, dig you a 2x2 hole, fill it up with that composted manure, and put that right down in it. It loves manure. We've got chickens, and I put chicken manure on it, and it loves it. We've had, I think I put rabbit manure on it, and it did great with that too. So it likes that. It likes cool, moist sites, so not wet. Y'all know the difference between moist and wet, right? If you had a sponge, you should be able to just wring a little water out of it. That's moist. If you grab it and it drops a lot of water, that's wet. It doesn't like to sit in water. So don't put it, if it's near a downspout, like if you're going to plant it against your house, don't put it right where the downspout is. Come back over maybe 3 or 4 feet from that downspout and plant it there. So if you've had trouble growing it, north side of your house would be a great place. It needs at least 500 hours of winter temperatures that are between 28 and 49 degrees. So we have that here for the time being, and I think where we live, I think we always will have. But we're on the edge. If we lived in West Kentucky, I don't know that we could get away with this. Where we're up high, it's cooler here than it is in other parts of the state. This can vary also by the variety that you grow. So do y'all know which varieties you've tried in the past? I'm going to guess it's McDonald, because that's one that everybody used to grow. That was the old variety. That's a well-known one. But what they generally recommend is that you plant and try a bunch of different varieties. And plant them at the same time in the same place. And you'll see that some of them are better, just a little bit better. This is like ball players. Some are taller and some are better able to dunk, and some are faster and they can dribble better. Well, the plants are the same way. Some of them put on more stalks, some of them make thicker stalks, some of them will be red, some of them tend to be green or pink. But some of them have better abilities to adapt to the conditions that we've got. Make sure that you water it well when we have hot, dry weather, especially in the late season. And that's when it's going to be storing up its reserves for next year. Most of our plants, that's what they do. They will grow and produce a crop on the first part of the season, and then the last part of the season, when we think they're just sitting there doing nothing, that's when they're storing up to get them through winter for next year. So they need to be well watered during that time. And if you all think about it, every year, usually August, September will turn off hot and dry. October can be dry. That's our driest month usually. Make sure that you water it during that time. And that would be about an inch per week is what it's going to need. Mulching it with straw will help keep it cool and retain some of that moisture. You can use straw or you can just use regular mulch. It likes a pH that's kind of neutral, so oak mulch or anything that you would buy other than pine would work good for this. Make sure that you protect it from the evening sun. So if you're going to plant it somewhere that faces north or east. And I know sometimes you can't help it. You live where you live and your house is where your house is. But if you've got a place at your house that faces north or east, that'd be your best bet. Avoid the sandy soils. It likes clay just fine, but avoid the sandy ones because they tend to dry out fast. Now, as far as pests, it doesn't have a lot of problems, but chickens love it. Do y'all have chickens? Anybody have chickens? The only problem I have ever had growing this is when my little girl turns, and she ain't little no more, but when she turns her chickens loose, they make a beeline for my rhubarb. They love it. And they will pluck every leaf on it off if I let them. And I'll have to run back in the house and say, come get your chickens. And so they were already up about that high, and she turned them loose because they hadn't been out yet. And they wiped out my rhubarb. And they've grown back, but you know, when something's first coming up in the spring, that ain't when you want it to get topped. So if you got chickens, just be careful. This is a real easy thing to grow organically because there's not a lot of diseases that go after it, and there's really not a lot of pests. We've got one here, that rhubarb curculio, that will attack it, and it overwinters and also feeds on curly dock. Do y'all know what curly dock is? It's a weed that we've got here. Seems like it's not as common now as it used to be. When I was a kid, we had it everywhere. I think hogs loved it. If you ever had hogs. Do y'all know what curly dock is? It's a big broadleaf looking weed, and it would actually put you in mind of rhubarb in a way. It gets a big fat leaf on it, about like that, and it'll have a reddish stem. But
that ain't what you call planting, is it?
No, planting stays green. This one, it gets a real big leaf on it. Like I've seen the leaves on it be that long and that wide. It'll get big. But I used to see it all the time. I don't pay much of mind to it now, but anyway. As far as some of the diseases that it can get root and crown rot. And the variety that you get, you know, just like what we talked about before, different varieties have different resistance to things. We were talking about COVID earlier. COVID wiped some people out and other people didn't know they had it. And that's kind of how this is. Some varieties, you can plant it in a place where one might have died totally out with crown rot or root rot, and they'll be fine. But it's a varietal thing. So if you try one variety and it croaks from a root rot, get a different one. As far as the market potential, we've had people asking about this at the farmers market over and over and over again because nobody has had it. And it's kind of been overlooked, but now suddenly we've got a bunch of people that are interested in growing it for the market. It's a great supplemental crop for somebody that's a strawberry grower. So Bennett or some of those guys that are growing big strawberry crops, this ought to be a no-brainer to have rhubarb there with it. Younger buyers might not be familiar with it, so having recipe cards, and I thought we had one, and Brad looked all over and we can't find it, but I know there is one, so if you call back and ask Nanette for it, I know or you can find it on the internet. There's a bunch of recipes for rhubarb that are really good. If you're going to try to sell it to young people, you'll have to show them how to use it, because they've probably not grown up eating it. Commercially in the U.S., they grow it a lot in the Pacific Northwest, California, and Michigan, but it just so happens that we beat almost all of those to the market. So you don't have to worry about them coming in and selling it for a low price. We can beat them to the market. Selling it to restaurants directly is a good way to sell it. And then we were talking earlier about jams and things made from rhubarb, and they make wine from it too. If you like something that's got a kick to it, rhubarb is it. I mean, it'll slap you around. I think the market for it is a little more limited than other things because it doesn't take a lot of it. You know, it's not like somebody comes in and buys a bushel of rhubarb. They come in and buy a few stalks, just enough for one batch, and then they don't really do much other than that. But as people learn about it, I think the market's going to expand. And so if you wanted to grow this and sell it, I would tell you start off small and just kind of keep growing as long as there's demand. Don't go plant an acre of rhubarb. You'll be eating a lot of rhubarb. So some of the varieties, most of these that we've got would be considered heirlooms. The U.S. is not really putting out any new varieties of rhubarb, but Europe is. And so if you go on the internet, you might be able to track down some sources that are from across the sea and find them. And I forgot to put it in there, but the pub that you all got that's from Virginia Tech, I think it was that one, had some of the, it was either that one or the UK one, had sources of where you could get the plants from. So if you wanted to do more than just the one, yeah, there it is. Norse was on there, and let me see what it says. Thank you, Sandy. So Norse and Johnny's and Indiana Berry and Plant, there's several of them listed, and they even tell you how many different varieties they've got. So it looked to me like Indiana Berry and Plant, and if you get on their mailing list, you'll always be on their mailing list. I think I bought something off of them one time, and do what?
I ordered them from North once.
Yeah.
I ended up losing them.
They have McDonald, and I think it might be that Ruby Red.
Yeah, Big Corn is another one.
I think the Ruby Red is one.
That's what y'all got, is the Ruby Red. All right. The Victoria is what they got? Okay. All right. Yeah, what y'all got in the bag is Victoria, so if you want to write that down so you don't forget it, that'll tell you a little bit about what it's likely to be like. That's the French one that will be vigorous and tart, and the stalks are green. So if you're wanting to make jelly off of this, it'll be the green. People think that green, it's a mental thing. Just like you think that a red apple is going to be sweeter than a green apple, and it is if you're talking about a Granny Smith, but not all the time, right? So a June apple, it ain't that sweet, or it ain't that tart. This is the same way. There's no difference between the stalks of the red versus the green as far as how sweet it is, but it's personal preference and what color you want the jam to be. So, but you can kind of get an idea of what all this information pretty well came from the Virginia Tech, but there's some of the UK one in there too. So if you don't have to write down notes, it's in that pub that you've got. I said that there's no correlation between the color and the sweetness, but there is a difference between the deep red varieties and some of the others, as far as the deep red ones tend to have thinner stalks and to be less productive. So, you know, you can find you a woman that is beautiful, and she might have the worst personality ever. And that would be my comparison for this, is if you want that pretty red plant, you're going to have to put up with the tiny little stalks. So there's trade-offs, right? Always trade-offs. As far as establishing it, if you do the root or the crown pieces, it'll be a lot faster. But Brad has started some seed down in the greenhouse, and how big are they up now? Okay, so it'll be slow. But the folks that didn't get into this class are going to end up with that instead of what you all got. So you're going to be ahead of them on when you get to harvest.
I got a question.
Ask.
Like they plant seeds, some in the spring.
Right.
And plant that seed.
You can plant that seed. If you've got one plant, I don't know off the top of my head if this is self-fertile or not. So do you know if you got more than one plant?
I got 4.
You got 4? Okay. Well, try it and see. You ain't out nothing. I just don't know if it's self-fertile or not, and if it's all the same or not. I really don't know.
Germination rate for that was incredible. It did great as far as germination goes with the seed part.
So you ought to know pretty fast. And were you one of the ones that had a high tunnel, Jimmy? Okay. If you wanted to bring some seed, he could get you. He could start it down there and see if it works or not.
I thought it was greenhouse.
Oh, well, stick it in there and try it. So if you divide your own, dip them in cap 10 first, and that will help cut down on any fungal issues. And you want to plant these early, so just as soon as you can work the ground is when you want to plant them. And we got them in as quick as we could and get the class scheduled, but you could have planted this 3 weeks ago if you'd wanted to. But they need to be about 4 to 6 inches deep and about 3 feet apart if you're planting in a row. Make sure that you water them thoroughly, and the reason for doing that is it settles the soil. You know, when you plant something, there's a lot of air pockets in there, and a lot of times if it turns off dry, it'll dry out before it gets started. So if you wet it and let the ground sink in, it kind of seals up around the root and lets it not dry out. So fertilize it with nitrogen before and after the last harvest. So before the harvest, you're trying to get a lot of stalks to come up. After the harvest, you're trying to build up for next year. So that's why we're doing that. As far as the establishment cost, UK's pub had numbers from 2017 in it. And you know, what has happened in the last 7 years? You think you can buy rhubarb crowns for the same price now that you did in 2017? And you can't buy rhubarb at the store for the same as it was in 2017. So I kind of adjusted the numbers a little bit. But that establishment cost is about what it should be right now. And half of that cost is what you would be out in buying the crown pieces. But it's the production's still going to be about 450 to 600 pounds out of those 300 crowns. So you're going to get about half your money back in the first year. So this is a crop that in 2 years' time you're making money off of it. Based on the numbers that they had. And I've adjusted their numbers up. They had it for like, if you look in that UK one, it's that little two-sided page, that one. The number that they had was that you could buy it for $1.50 to $2 a pound. Good luck trying to buy it for $1.50 to $2 a pound. I don't think that's happening. So I doubled that because I think that's about what the prices have done. When the leaves emerge, it's usually when it's above 40 degrees, and you need to let those fully develop before you harvest, which is called pulling. And we call it pulling for a reason. That's what you need to do. Don't cut it. Why would you think you'd want to pull it instead of cutting it? Have y'all harvested rhubarb before? You know, when you pull it, there's a whole piece that comes off from below the ground that comes off with it, right? If you cut it, you've left that whole piece on there. And that gives it a place for disease to come back in and to start a root rot. I know you might not believe me, but if you pull that whole thing off, it's kind of like cloves of a garlic or something. You're removing anything where that rot would come in.
I've never pulled it. I've cut a bushel off it before. It's good to know, though.
It's better if you pull it.
I've never pulled it. I didn't know you could.
Yeah, just give it a yank. It'll pop right loose.
Okay.
So that's how you want to do it. And usually late April and May is when that would start. And I told Brad before I put this together, and I didn't put it in the slideshow because I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go, and I'll just tell you both, and you can decide which story you believe. All right. Both came from research, but I don't know whose research is right. All right. So It says, basically, I've had people tell me that you only harvest it in the spring, and I'm sorry, I just smacked that microphone and probably deafened you, James. A lot of people that I've read have said that you only harvest this in the spring because it gets bitter as the season goes on. And if you've ever harvested rhubarb late in the summer, that is true. The difference is, if you're fertilizing it like you ought to, it's going to be sending up new stalks all the time anyway. I think as long as you're harvesting the new stalks that are tender, you don't have that problem. If you try to pull some of them old ones that have spread to the outside, that's going to lock your jaw up. Have you ever ate after it's already, the flavor ain't the same, and it's just bitter. So you don't harvest it at all the first year because you're letting it get started and getting the roots established, and you're not trying to wipe it out. The second year, you can take 2 to 4 stalks off of it. In the third year, it says you can harvest for 4 to 6 weeks. And you should never take off more than 2/3 of the stalks. All right? So you're always leaving 1/3 of what is there to grow more. You need, those are like little greenhouses or solar panels. They need to be able to keep pumping sugar into the ground to get it to keep, or into the crown to get it to keep growing. So after the 4th year, you can spread the season out to about 8 to 10 weeks. All right? And it says if it's vigorous, so some of the varieties that we've looked at, that one that you all got, I believe it said was one of the more vigorous growing ones. You can continue to sporadically harvest it through the summer. I can tell you that if you've put it manure and you keep it watered good and it stays moist and you fertilize it, mine kept growing all the way up until it started, it was like late September before it started to kind of quit doing anything. And that was with the chickens wearing it out every time they got loose. So you all shouldn't have that problem. Just a few extra thoughts at the end. It does not like heat. I want to hit on that one more time. If by some weird chance, we had a year, this has probably been about 12 or 15 years ago. Do y'all remember the year that it stayed in the 90s up into October? I tried to grow rhubarb that year, and guess what happened? It died. If we have a freakish year that it just turns off hot and stays hot, don't blame the rhubarb. You might plant again next year, and it might last for another 10 years before it gets wiped out. So, but there are some things you can do. You can water it with cool water. You can put that straw on it, and that will kind of help keep it from getting too hot. I've even read about shade cloth, not too much, but just like something that would dapple the sunlight on it if it's in full sun. Mine, I've got a wood shed in the house, so it's only getting sunlight for it only gets direct sunlight for about 3 hours a day. And after that, it's all, dappled. But if it gets over 85 degrees, it can shorten how long the planting is going to last. And as I said before, it's harder now than it used to be. And there's your real pretty picture and something to make you hungry. Now, any questions?
What fertilizer do you use?
I think a water-soluble fertilizer on this one does real good. I don't think there's anything wrong with using granular. I've sprinkled 1010 around it, and I've not had any trouble with that. But I have tended to use slow release or soluble on this. So I've got some Osmocote Plus that I use when I'm doing my blueberries, and I know I'm not going to burn it, so I tend to use that. If you're going to irrigate, it said use the soluble, water soluble.
Green chicken manure, put up clicks so it won't hurt it?
Nope. Nope. What I will say though is I would make sure that that is composted. When it rains, things splatter, and you are going to be eating this. And the rule of thumb is that it needs to be at least 120 days old. So I'd be,
I usually just give it to the people, they don't bother me.
if their gut rots, that's their problem, right, Jimmy?
I was fixing to make another raised bed for rhubarb, and I thought about putting it in an area where it's kind of shady after 2 or 3 in the evening. Would that be a good idea?
That would be a great place.
Mine's right in the middle of the gardens. Get the sun.
Yeah, but look where you live at. That's a cold place, ain't it?
What you talking about, man?
He has to chip ice out of his well in July. It's cold where he lives.
We make our own rules up our way.
What about pets? We have dogs. What if they tried to eat it?
I've got dogs and I have not had any trouble with them trying to eat it. I have had trouble with a German Shepherd tromping through my rhubarb and breaking the stalks down, but I've not had any trouble with them trying to eat it. It's bitter. I mean, I don't think if they bit into it, I don't think you're going to have any trouble out of it. Yeah, I don't think deer will even eat it. On your rhubarb?
No.
Oh.
In the garden.
I was going to say, they're desperate if they're eating rhubarb.
No, I didn't have any from these.
Who else? Any more?
At the end of the season, do you cut it down or just let it die off or what?
You do want to clean it up. I think what I ended up doing, and none of the pubs went into this, but you do clear off the dead just in case there's anything. I consider that garden sanitation, getting rid of all the leaves or anything, but I don't do that until it's plumb wilted down. It'll be plastered to the ground before I do that. And but it seems like it's totally there's no new shoots coming up. It looks like the thing's dead when I do it.
If the leaf is yellow,
Yeah, they'll turn totally yellow.
can I pull that off?
Yes, pull those off and get rid of them.
Do you have to mound dirt on it or anything to get it through the wind?
No, I didn't have to do any of that. It's very, very winter hardy. So, I mean, if it'll grow in Siberia, there's nothing our winter's going to throw at it. It's going to just kind of laugh at it. Is that all you got? Okay. Nothing else? One more.
Yeah. What about if it flowers in the middle? Can you cut that out?
That was...
It's in the middle.
Yes.
Cut it on like a 45, and that way the water will run off of us that cutting across?
Yes. That's exactly what I would do. And mine tried to bolt on me, and I cut I don't want the seed. And anything you get like that, if you let it bolt, you think about all the other garden crops that you've got. If you let them start doing that, you're not going to get any other growth. They put all their energy into making seed. So I always cut that off. All right. So Jimmy, that's what you're doing wrong. See, cut that off.
I put a bushwalk before and I never did pull any. I didn't know you could pull it.
Yep. You'll be happy with that. I think you'll end up with more.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the sign-in sheet? James, pick us a number. What's it go up to?
I didn't sign it.
Oh, you better sign it real quick. How many have we got? Is there 12 per sheet? Pick us a number between 1 and 13, James. Or 14. 14.
7.
Let me see that front sheet. 1, 2, 3. Who's Penny Rose? Benny, you want a maple syrup?
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all for coming, and good luck with your rhubarb. If you have any trouble, holler at me.
Which one is ladies at, Shad?